Dummy Switch Pod. The boys are back. How are
Yes,
you, Chris?
sir. Yes, sir. Quarters. Look, I can't complain. I'm good. How you doing, bro?
Good myself. Good myself. The Dan Carters of podcasting here to give you our opinions, our flagrant takes,
Hmm.
here to talk about our sorrows from the past weekend and to look forward to URC final. Look forward to URC final. Just some church announcements. Obviously, you can catch us here, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the socials.
Yeah,
Leave comments,
yeah.
subscribe.
Let's
Um,
engage.
Yeah, and I think especially over what I'm going to go to first, because news of the week, before we get to the game of the week, box squad,
Yeah,
same as the alignment camp. I myself even thought, is this another alignment camp when I saw like the announcement being
yeah.
made? But they've kept the
Mm.
same group of players. I think it was 54, but now one dropped out, one came in.
Yeah.
Again, I think like with the alignment squad, there were no real issues, there were no real snubs. Some of your favorites didn't make it, but it's not like there was a guy that was really, really playing and he's been left
Yeah,
out. I mean,
yeah.
obviously the surprise inclusion is Makaza, and the more interesting one I'd say is Augustus Stroki. And I think now that they've been
Hmm.
solidified in a squad that could potentially play,
Yes, yes.
that's more to speak about. And Russ,
Yeah.
obviously, Hanekom getting injured, Russ coming in, which was very much like I know the Stormers crowd have been crying for him. Myself, I've been a big proponent of Russ, but I just don't feel like he's been at the level to where
Lately.
it's justified.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Look, I agree with you, but I think again, it's a squad, it's not a match day 23. There's
Yeah.
still a lot that's going to happen. I think it's still going to be whittled down a bit more. So all it is just, it's like guys get a few more weeks, before, the official squad announcements where the
Mm.
guys are going to be let go. We're going to see that. It's going to happen. The guys are
Guys
going to say,
get to,
no,
they
they've
get to get some new training kits, these
yeah,
little training
they got
kits.
some of that apparel. They got the apparel, the PNP apparel. They got that PNP apparel. So at least they got the yellow going over there, or is it gold? But it's yellow though, let's be honest.
Ah, no,
But
that's it.
yeah, so I'm not too like I think with the squad, there's a Springbok squad, nothing really too hectic to jump and scream about. It's just a matter of
Yeah.
I think we're all just excited to start to see what the first match day 23 is going to look like, and
Mm.
to watch the first game on TV because we won't be at the stadium due to the inflated ticket prices. But we understand. We understand. But yeah, man, I think the other thing is just that apparel, man. Jeez, wow. Oof.
Before before we move on, Makaza, obviously he's come from Varsity Cup.
I'm there for it.
Now, it's unfair, but
For
sometimes
who?
life is unfair and people
For
must get
who?
rewarded for things, and we must also get a taste of what other guys are getting. So I mean,
Yes, thank
I'm
you.
not against it. I'm
Yeah.
just saying that typically it has been unfair for other players that have come in. So it's also nice
Yes.
to see when someone that you're maybe supporting gets in unfairly. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
Also with
No.
that,
I
hey man, it is
know
what
what
it
you're
is.
saying. No, I know what you're saying. And yeah, that's why I said unfair for who? Because it's like, I
My,
mean, we've seen
yeah.
fast lanes, we've seen the e-tag line there where people have got
Mm,
e-tag, they just boop through,
yeah.
so now it's somebody else's turn, and I
Yeah, I
mean
mean,
if
it could be a Jan Hendrik Vessel situation where he was nowhere, got into the
yes,
team unfairly, he benefited unfairly, but he played and then he's become a regular in the Bulls team. And we've
yeah,
seen how he even played in this game. So it
no,
could be a
he's
situation with him where
yeah.
he comes in and he kicks off. My only thing
Mm,
is, to be honest, we really don't know how good he is. Because I mean, Varsity
we
Cup,
don't.
yes, it is a very
Yeah,
high level, it's a high standard, but essentially he's playing against some guys that are just going to be accountants. So you
yeah.
don't know at what level this guy is. And it's for me also
What
like
did
I
you
just want
say?
to have a word on
You
that
said
to
they're
say
going to
it's
be like
like
the accountants.
yeah, some of those guys they're going to be in logistics, accounting. They're doing
Yeah,
BComs, they're doing
they're going to be
you
there.
know
No,
he's not playing against internationals. He wasn't playing against internationals every week. He wasn't
true,
playing
true.
against even journeyman guys that have been Super Rugby, this, that. So,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
don't know where to measure him, which I find interesting because a lot of Stormer supporters have been crying that they missed out on him. Some are even saying they should be targeting him instead of trying to get Colby back. And I was just like,
yeah.
we don't even know what level. I mean, we'll see. Surely
We
we'll
haven't seen,
see.
yeah.
But I
But
guess
I
it's
mean, at the
interesting.
same time, we've seen some guys come from Varsity Cup. I think we've seen it before, especially the Stormers, where they've given Varsity Cup
Yeah,
guys opportunity. I mean, you look at Dialende, you look at even Etzebeth. Okay, he's just a human monster, But there's been, I mean, Roche
yeah,
from I think is it yeah
yeah.
the inside
UCT.
center of the Stormers as well. So who's to say he can't make the step up? Okay, maybe not international level, but again, if we're looking at the fixtures that are coming up, okay, not
Yeah.
disrespect to Italy and Georgia, but
No, fully
if you
fully
want to see,
disrespect. Fully disrespect. He should be able, if he could hang
yeah,
on Varsity Cup level, he should be able to hang on that level.
yes,
So
that's what I'm.
besides,
That's what
yeah,
I'm.
besides
Mm,
that,
mm,
the other thing I wanted to ask you about and talk about is for example, a player like David Creel and Papier,
yeah,
who are
yeah.
fringe players around the box. In my opinion, kind of like David Creel is like a measuring stick for if you're better than him, you should be a Bok. But
Hmm.
him on his own level, I'm not, I mean, I don't support the Bulls. I'm just looking at it objectively to say that I do believe there's other guys that should get a look in ahead of him. Papier may be the same story. Papier also, there's an issue of, well, actually, both of them. There's an issue of who do we drop?
Yeah. Mm. See, the Papiro one, if we had to look at it right now, talking like,
Yeah,
right now, you can argue that he's been the better number nine in the country, you know, and in the URC. And I say better, I'm not saying the best, but
mm,
one of the better ones. Although I really believe he's upped his levels. He's been more
yeah,
consistent for the Bulls. Even though, yes, there's those little dips, but we even saw over the weekend, he was one of the catalysts in taking advantage of, your favorite phrase, if you reach, I teach, and he did that twice, guys shooting up and he just that pace cutting them apart. Creel as well. Look, yeah, there's an argument. I think there's an argument for a lot of players to say, yeah, no, potentially Springbok, whatever. But I think if you look at more, there's more aspects to it. I think Creel is still not the finished article yet, in terms of at center, because that's where he's playing,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So yeah, he's close, but
Like for him, for
um,
example, do you pick him over a Dialendi and an Esterhazy? At
no,
13, do you pick him
I
over
wouldn't
an
even pick
Arm?
him
Do you
over
pick him over a
Arm.
Creel?
I wouldn't even pick him over Arm, regardless of Arm's performance this past
Yeah,
weekend. I wouldn't even pick him over Arm. To be honest, at this stage, because for me, it's like, yeah, yes, he is good, but yeah, I don't think he's quite there yet. I think there's other
and then
things,
I mean, even
certain,
at fullback, you've got Willem Safasi, Q and Horn. He doesn't beat.
yeah,
He's got versatility, but he's not the best at any of those positions. So
yeah.
unfortunately, it's just how it goes.
Yeah, yeah. So, but such is life. So you win some, you lose some. Sometimes you miss out, even though you
Yeah,
were the best candidate, But look, there'll be the PE appointment, sometimes we appointment. It happens,
yeah,
it goes both ways,
yeah,
it does. It goes both ways, and I'm not really I'm not fussed about that because at the same time, there's so many things that can happen. And again, it's a matter of, and just from looking at that, or the podcast that Rassi has, guys are patient. If guys are patient enough, and they stick in
yeah,
there, they hang in there. You never know. Opportunities can come. You might feel it's right now, but it may not be for you right now. Maybe a bit later. So Yeah, look,
Yeah,
I
I
don't.
agree. And
At the moment, I'm not. I'm not. They must first go. They must go win that URC first against Leinster.
yeah,
See if they can do that. Then I'm just going to say, okay, look, you know what, you know, let's put another magnifying glass and see.
mm,
You know, it doesn't mean you're gonna get in. That's the other thing. It doesn't mean, you know.
yeah. I think also in terms of player management, I think they also don't want to just drop someone cold. It must be
Mm,
a thing of I've given you enough chances. Even you look at yourself and
yeah,
say, hey, you know what? I
yeah.
actually haven't been up to it. So
You say
those I
no, I
don't think he's
couldn't.
gonna just drop anyone cold. But
Yeah.
moving on to the game of the week. Obviously, Leinster, yeah, they made it through. We don't have to discuss much. But the real
Yeah.
game, Bulls hosting the Sharks, just a backdrop to it. Huson was back. He went straight, like you said, an ETOL straight into the starting lineup. Johannes back on the bench, and then Etzebeth out. He had a clash with Corne Rao. I don't know what kind of a
All
clash, but
for
it left him
nothing.
out.
All for nothing. I'm just
And
saying.
then
But anyway.
Jason Jenkins was also someone in the locking department there that they had to bring in now two starting locks, and then a guy on the bench who's now what your third, fourth, fifth choice. You
Yeah.
digging there at lock.
Look, hear me out when I say this. Hear me out when I say this. I just believe, there were the conversations there, there were phone calls made, and they say, no, look, let's be real. Let's be real. Look at this game. Even if you go
Yeah,
through, you're gonna get a hiding because you have to go. So let's be real. I'm speculating here. I'm just throwing in some because it
yeah,
was. And then if you look at even the last minute change with Julie's dropping out
yeah.
as
For
well.
Manu Chituka,
Yeah, oh, well, which was a master stroke, because he had a good game. A master stroke in the sense that Manu played well when he
but at
came
the
on,
same
but then
time,
on the other
you could
side,
have put
he
you could have
compromised.
put yeah. I mean, for me,
Yeah,
I would have put Manu Chituka ahead of like Dion Slabbert, and then I would
yeah,
have put Julius in. I don't get it.
yeah, because you've got Vince that could cover lock as well, if you know what I mean.
Even
So
Manu Chituka also plays lock. Well,
yeah,
he's played lock before. I've
yeah,
seen him play lock. So
but you know what I mean. Like you could have made a plan there to keep the attacking, and that's why I say it just seems like the guys weren't less. They were just they were showing up, and we saw the result coming. We called it last week. We saw this coming. We said, it's not gonna happen. You know,
but I mean, for me,
on the
the Sharks were around in this game and they did well enough at times. I'll say at times where they didn't get blown off the park. If you have to start from right from the beginning, you've got De Klerk. He's somewhat foreshadowed his
what a
moment of
start.
brilliance that would come later when he made that break. I think he's also another one, De Klerk, where it's like if you're kind of better than him, you should be a bok. I don't know
Yeah,
if he's the finished article. I think he has the X factor in the pace. He had the moment of brilliance. He had that game breaking moment.
yeah. It was his
But
game this weekend.
yeah, it was a real game for him.
Yeah, but I mean, still, even him, I don't think complete yet. And we know wing is a reserve position in South African rugby. Let's not lie to ourselves. Let's all be honest. Let's just put that on the table right now. You know what I mean? It's a reserve position, but he's still. I don't think he's still the complete article yet. If because
Yeah,
he's got to back it up. That's the thing about this the semifinals that they've got to back it up because you're gonna be otherwise they bridesmaids again.
mm,
And it'll be second year running. So if they can back it up this weekend, yes, there's an argument to say, okay, let's look in, but then it's got to be the consistent backing up. And yeah, the Bulls are always going to play at home, quarters. That's the thing. They were
yeah,
always going to, and the crowd was there, and obviously Jake White must have stoked the fuss to say, these guys are Springboks. They think they're better than you. You should be in there, Sebastian. You should be in there. David, you should be in there, but you're
yeah,
not. So show them. I kind of feel that was and because there was that edge to it,
yeah,
in that game in this past game, but Bulls for me, it was on the balance of it. Yes, as much as the Sharks were hanging around, there was some assisted hanging around going on there as well. In
I thought it
Bulls
was fair
were not.
decisions.
No, no, but I'm saying because the Bulls were not helping themselves, and that's
Yes.
what I mean. There's some assisted hanging around, So and again, I think it just shows the type of game the Bulls and Sharks is, where it matters, it does matter, and
Yeah.
I think, yeah, the Sharks just have a way of getting under the Bulls guys' skin. I just don't know how, because almost in every game there's always discipline issues. you know, um, there's always discipline issues. So, and the Bulls almost blew it. And had they blown it, the Sharks weren't going to be deserved winners. I'm sorry. I'm a Sharks supporter. Yes, I back the boys, but we're just not ready for this kind of
Yeah.
smoke right now. And even the Bulls, I don't know if they are, because it's going to be very tough to go to Leinster. Yes, they're
Yeah.
more in a better place position to try and do something, but you know, everybody thought Glasgow were going to do something, and they epically failed. So, yeah. But anyway, this weekend, yeah, man, it's just
Yeah,
I wasn't surprised.
let's run through things. Bulls, obviously there were questions before the game. Was the Bulls scrum going to be dominant? They've been dominant all season. But again, there's always
Yeah,
that thing of it's a Bok front row. And we saw early on Bulls got the ascendancy, although later in the game it kind of like equaled out. And then especially when
yeah,
the Shark subs came on, that front row
yeah.
tends to get the better of the second front rows that tend to come on.
Hmm.
And even with that scrum of the Bulls, Ethan Hooker interception, big time
Hmm.
player makes big time players make big time plays. It
Yeah,
was
man.
on for me in the spirit of I thought it was against the spirit of the game to disallow that. They should have just let that thing go, just to spice it up, just to let us
Okay,
see
Matt
what's going on
Williams.
here.
Okay, Matt Williams. Yeah, well, it was against the spirit of the game, but unlucky, just
Yeah.
unfortunate, rules are the rules, yes, but like you say, big time player. Um, Bulls quarters, Bulls scrum is always going to be strong, and I think
Mm.
it was again, yeah, Hobie's better than Bongi, show him that you're better, I kind of feel like there's a lot of the feeling was there, in
Yeah.
this game, and yeah, Bulls just initially they had the perfect start, good execution, played with intensity, had the Sharks under the ropes. Yeah, Sharks got the opportunity, but then once the Bulls started getting their points, then they lost their heads. And then it
Yeah.
became a dogfight really. And the Sharks were always gonna, go down swinging. They're like, hey, look,
Mm.
you beat me, but I'm gonna throw punches as well. And that's all. For me, that's the positive out of it, is that they didn't stop trying, even though their trying was just lackluster.
Yeah, that's the issue that I have with the Sharks is that they were getting go forward at times, but it's very unimaginative. They just kind of we're gonna hit with Esterhazen, then we're gonna
Mm.
try and go wide. If that doesn't
But
work,
Estesen was not.
yeah, so then Esterhazen doesn't really get over the game line, then we're gonna go wide. That's not gonna work. Then we're just gonna put an up and under and then just hope.
Yeah, yeah,
And I mean that's if
and,
you're looking from a coaching's perspective, that is kind of that's the ultimate basics in terms of game plan.
yeah,
We did see towards the end where it was width that was meaningful, not just width where we're just passing down the line and we've got every man
yeah,
covered. There was that
yeah.
one where Ox got it over the top there, where they made the width count, even
Yes,
from another set piece. I think it was a line out where they hit forwards, 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 and then Hendrickson gave sort of a looping out wide pass for
Luke.
Hooker, where
Yes,
it was meaningful width. You
yeah.
have to create that. And you're not
Guys
going
were
to create
running.
that.
Right.
Yeah, you're not going to create that if you're just hitting Esterhazen up. He's not getting much joy. And then it's like, okay, let's just try and
What
play. If
now?
that doesn't work, Hendrickson just kicks. It's very unimaginative. There's no player at 10. He's not a guy that's going to do something that's just going to break open the game. He's not an X Factor player, Hendrickson. Unfortunately, he was found wanting off the top there. Four ball, scrum off gets it. That gap at the end of the line out between Bongi and Hendrickson, it's both of their fault, but it's more so Hendrickson's fault.
Yeah,
He was found wanting there. He's unimaginative in terms of play from 10. You would say that kicking is his strong suit, missed kicks. There
yeah.
wasn't really, there wasn't really much coming from him.
Yeah, there wasn't. But again, you can't blame the guy. He doesn't pick himself, and as well, it's just I think even the service from his brother was also a bit poor. It didn't
Yeah,
help. The speed of the ball from the breakdown is just it hasn't been good enough, and it hasn't been good to for the type of momentum that the Sharks need to play the way that they've been playing or the way that they want to play with taking it up. That speed of the ball's got to be quick from the base in order to get behind
yeah,
defenses, and it just wasn't happening for them. But then they still kept on trying to do the same thing, which is a bit crazy, And I felt even the change of number 9 was a bit too late. I think the pack they did enough. They held their own. They did enough to keep them in the
yeah.
game.
Especially second half with Manu
Yeah,
Shituka, he was a big injection.
he was big. He was the catalyst there. He was the difference maker in that pack there in the second half. And then yeah, Hendricks at 10. Look, he isn't a 10, and even so, you'd expect that the coaches they understand their limitations, understand their guys, and say and say okay, right, okay, this plan is not working with Estays in going up at 12. Let's do decoy. Let's run some
That's my
dummy
thing.
lines.
You've got Lucanio who just you look at the backline, you're like, who's the guy that's got that X factor, that's got that
Yeah,
playmaker ability. So it's like if you know your players and you know what they're gonna do, it's like, okay, let's try and put him in a kind of a position where he can show that
yeah,
off. Where
yes,
you're getting just getting the ball just
yeah,
at a
and
basic yeah.
under pressure, then now he's trying to do things and they do things. Look, let's not mess about. He didn't have a good game. He
Nah,
didn't. It's one of his
that was a disaster class.
one of his trashiest games that he's played in. I think that I've ever seen him play since maybe even Border when he was still playing for Border. So it's been a very long time. So
Yeah.
I'll say I don't think he's washed. I know we're poking a bit, but
Yeah, I
I
mean
don't
it's
think he's
fine.
washed.
It's tongue in cheek, but I mean Lucanio
Yeah,
is he's it's one game.
yeah,
He had a bad game. He's far from done. It's
yeah,
jokes in the moment, but I mean he's still
yes,
a serious ball.
yeah. So then and then you expect him. Okay, now he must generate magic. Static ball. We're just shifting the ball wide. We don't have a plan to say, okay, this is 12 taking it up is not working anymore. Let's maybe swap it around. Let's get maybe ball in the hands more. Even him, or even just saying that okay, because Fassi was trying to step up and do first receiver, which was
Yeah.
surprising to see. But I think he identified, you could see that no man, we need to make something, and he was trying. But even then,
Yeah,
you'd
but
expect
that's
maybe
also a
coaches,
problem. It's like Fasi is that play what you see. Play what you see. Just
yeah,
give him the ball.
you
Just
see,
he's gonna,
he's busy pointing
yeah,
at
yeah,
things. I don't
he's
know what.
playmaking on the go. You can't
Yeah,
you have to go into these games prepared. And it can't be a thing of,
yeah,
yeah, we're just gonna hit, then we go wide, we
yeah.
hope. Mapimpi's getting the ball, he's doing the best he can. He's
Look, he's been good for the Sharks. At his age, even he looked the most threatening back for the Sharks on the weekend. Now, let's say Julius was on the bench. Now you got Julius, you got Mapimpi in there. You're gonna get something out.
yeah,
You can get something out of that back line, but it just wasn't happening. But then again, don't take anything away from the Bulls because the Bulls were bringing that physicality. They'll bring the hits as well. It was personal out there for these guys. You could see. So and credit to them. They did what they had to do to
yeah,
take the win. Um, Capitalize on the fact that the Sharks don't really have a plan. They haven't
yeah.
had one since they haven't had one since 2022. Or 2023. But yeah, like it's just there's nothing more to say really about the Sharks' performance other than that, like what I've been saying, new voice, they gotta, make some
Yeah.
changes. They gotta get serious. They gotta get serious about what they want to do, if they want to challenge, want to win championships. Because look, the Bulls for them, you know, as much as yes, you beat them twice in the league phase, when it mattered, they couldn't do it. Understandable because the Bulls far better momentum. They've been on a good positive run of winning games. Um, but the reality is this, it's not all doom and gloom for the Sharks because if you look at log position last year, look at log position this year, you
Yeah.
know, from a log position perspective, yes, they're much better. From a play perspective, it's just almost gone backwards, which is what they need to look into. And then they just need to make some tough calls, whether it's management, players, and just let's get a clear direction on what we want to do. Yeah, that's really for me. That's really it for
Yeah.
the Sharks.
I think
But the
from the
Bulls,
Bulls
credit,
perspective, if you look at the Bulls
credit to
perspective,
Northern Transvaal, I must just say,
yeah, credit to them. If we look at them, the scrum, obviously the dominance in the beginning, they'll want to just try and keep that in the beginning again,
mm,
and then try and see it further into the game than what they did in this game. The line
yeah,
out, it was a bit of a problem. Chituka was disrupting. So
yeah,
again, that's something that they'll have to brush up on. De Klerk,
hmm
moment of game breaking moment where it's like you get that kind of a turnover. As a winger, you just think the winger's gonna crash. Or
yeah,
there's that thing of,
yeah,
turnover ball goes wide. So you think he's gonna swing. Never, who thinks to do that? And it was a pinpoint kick
yeah.
right in
Pinpoint kick,
that
eh?
5 meter over Mapimpi's
Mm,
head. So you have to say well done to him there. Other things, they just got it's discipline. You can't give 3 yellow cards,
yeah,
especially in the final.
yeah.
That's going to be an
You,
issue,
you
and you
you
can't you
cannot.
can't even complain about any of those yellow cards. You
No,
can't. The Forster
no,
one was very
no.
clear. Hanukom one also, again, unfortunately, yes, there was a guy coming in, but very clear. Marcel Coetzee
Those
as
yellows.
well. And I mean, the mouth was even going a bit.
Okay.
The referee gave him 10 meters.
Yeah.
You,
No,
you,
that
ha-
one, that one the ref had him earmarked. I'm sorry. That one, I'm not a booster, but I was just like, nah, the ref had him earmarked. He was like, what? Because he said, no, if you that language, I can put you, and then
yeah,
the very next penalty, you put him
yeah,
in, you know. Because when you look at it, he was
yeah,
actually behind the ball. There was somebody else that dropped that thing. It just so happened that
yeah.
he was holding the weight, and the weight it fell on him. So then he said,
Mhm.
"No, you are going." I thought that was punishment for that. So when argued the yellow card, I just felt the wrong player was carded, but on that one. But yeah, the discipline of the Bulls they can't allow because Leinster are going to do everything to get
Yeah,
under them. To win. The fans are going to be, you know, they're expecting this one. For them, they're
yeah,
expecting that this is going to be, a party out there in Dublin. So Bulls,
yeah,
hopefully they can spoil it. I must say, I was happy with Johannes coming on.
yeah.
Like I've been saying, I'm here for Johannes. I'm here for Johannes. I'm not a Bull supporter, but I like what he's been doing, and I think he can be the difference maker for them, even if they don't see it.
Yeah, then the later stages of the game, when it was just both teams kind of swinging at each other, it was close, one score around there. That's where you start to see the Bulls leaning on the box kicks. Papier was very accurate,
Yeah,
although sometimes I have
yeah,
been a critic of his kicking. It was very accurate, where him and Moody they were getting it right every time, and I was putting Mapimpi under pressure. They got some penalties there, So Moody also, the longer the game went on, the longer Moody also went into the game. He was disrupting arm once or twice, getting
yeah.
that high ball. So yeah, I think they'll have to lean on things like that kicking game, try and get their wingers in those positions.
Especially because Anakom is not there now. You see,
Yeah,
yeah. Now the
but at
real
the same
test
time,
is going to
ESCOM came in and he also put in a shift. So I mean,
be
they've got
did.
the players, they've got the squad that is deep enough to where they can pull up the next guy, and you're pulling up a next guy that's a World Cup winner.
Yeah, yeah. They've got the guys. I think it's got to be about the execution. Because right now, look, this is for South Africa. It's got to be for the credibility of South. Yeah, as much as we've had SA teams in the knockouts and whatnot, but for
Yeah,
credibility of a South African team to go away and go win a trophy away, you know,
yeah,
to go
and
win a trophy
and
away.
I mean the heartbreak of last season for them. That's going to be
It's
the
got to be the
thing.
motivation. It has to be.
Yeah,
It has to be. And like I say, because Leinster and their fans, for them, it's already written. They're just waiting for the final signature. So it's a chance for the Bulls to make it even more personal as well. Again, and really do something. But it'll be tough. It'll be very tough.
for me the biggest thing, like I said, I've got here discipline.
Mm.
brush up on the lineouts. And my thing is, they switch off at times,
Yeah,
and it's something that they
yeah,
had gotten over. But it seems like it's back to where there was a large period where the Sharks were playing most of the rugby, and they can't allow like
yes,
Leinster are gonna have those. Number one, they're at home. They're gonna have
yeah,
those patches anyway, regardless. They
yeah,
especially at
yeah,
the beginning, they're gonna come out
yeah,
firing. But
yeah.
later in the game, now when you're
But
talking
and they won't be as poor
around,
as the Sharks to not
yes,
convert.
yes, they're gonna get that reward. They're gonna get that
Mm,
reward. So you
mm,
can't switch off around that 50, 60th minute where now you're just on the back foot the whole time. It's
mm.
not you're not gonna get the same result. So they can't switch off as much as they were allowed to in this game.
Yeah. How do you think you, Jake White? Yeah, just say.
Yeah.
How do you think you go beat them there? Obviously ball position is going to be one of it.
Yeah.
And
For
and and
me, yeah.
and territory. I'm just saying, like ball possession and trying to maintain territory or to maintain play outside of your 22 at least, or outside of your
Yeah.
10 meter, like at least is to keep the play there with these guys. You don't want them to get in your
Yeah. Obviously territory, but for me the biggest thing is at every opportunity, the ball needs to be kicked out and there needs to be
um,
a scrum. We need stoppages in play. We can't allow
yeah,
long periods of ball in play because that's
yeah,
where our strength is in our scrum. Even if
yeah,
it's your ball, our strength is in our scrum. So we need scrums, we need lineouts. If you look at the tries
yeah,
that they scored, it was all off
yes,
lineouts
yes,
and that kind of thing. So it's like when you kick the ball, you kick it out. You kick it in the
yes,
stands. You don't
yeah,
allow them to run it back to you and keep the ball in play and have your guys.
mm,
They're gonna take that flight. Now they must be running up and down, up and down, up and down.
uh,
They need
uh,
passages. They need breaks in play, and then again
yes,
they need to get rolling, get those blue waves going when they're in position. Get that go forward.
mhm,
You know those moments of magic. If someone does reach, then you teach. You wait for those
yeah,
moments and you try and get your Villy LaRue in the game. You try and because they've got guys that can play make. They've got guys that are clever.
mhm.
They've got
We
guys
need a
that can,
mature
yeah.
and clever performance. Yeah,
And then you lean on the Moody's when it's time. If you can see there's a weakness, if you do a box kick, he's getting joy. Then
mm.
you lean on those kinds of things. So I think they have the weapons. It's just whether they're going to show up.
That's the $1 million question. And we can't always be using excuse about travel and whatnot. It's high time that a South African team
Mm,
in a league competition go overseas and win a trophy. Not cup, because Challenge Cup is different, with the Sharks what they did. It was different because it was neutral venue. This one,
yeah.
it's league, so we have to. I mean, we have to. From a South African perspective, the credibility of South African rugby, it depends on this. Yeah, pressure on the Bulls.
Any final words?
Hey,
Final words.
no, I said what I said. The credibility of SA rugby being in these competitions depends on the Bulls now, because we have to win it, man. We have
Yeah.
to, because we did it the first one out, and then
Yeah.
it's been, you know, so they have to.
Yeah. Back to back runners up.
Hey, you don't want that tag.
Someone steals your girlfriend twice. Not
Hey.
only twice. But anyway, that's it from us, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Bye.